So you guys want more Roman city builders? Well, wish granted. Merry Christmas. Hey everybody, my name is Pravus and welcome to a demo for an upcoming game called Nova Roma. This is developed by the same team that made Kingdoms and Castles a few years ago, and if you played that game, you're going to recognize the art style pretty much right away. But it does play a bit differently from their earlier title. We're going to explore this game, I'll show you how it works, and if you guys like what you see and want to wishlist the game, it is releasing in January, so I'll include a link in the description down below. But without any further ado, let's start up with a new game. Now the story is that Rome has fallen. We are a brave band of free persons, escaped slaves, and disgruntled citizens who are fleeing to create our own city, hence Nova Roma. Of course, the old empire and its death throes will attack us, but that's to be expected. And now we get to generate our own islands. There are a few things you really want to look for. Look for a lot of decent stone deposits, ideally semi-close to a river. And we do want to have some iron and marble on the island as well. I do see a little bit of marble over here, not much. Otherwise, this is an acceptably decent island. Sure, we'll give it a go. And I have to play on easy mode in the demo. I'm not trying to be a coward, I promise. And we're going to name this Pravusopolis. Now the first thing we have to do is place down an outpost, which is effectively your city center. You want to place it somewhat close to the stone deposits, also downstream of water, ideally your river or a lake or whatever you've got, and there needs to be a decent number of trees and fertile land as well. These dark green tiles are good farming spots and usually are close to the river. So right around over here is actually perfectly fine. So my little citizens are going to build this up, perfect, and the first thing we'll do is just go ahead and extract all the resources nearby. We do have a lot of homeless citizens right off the bat. Obviously, we want to fix that pretty early on. Let's go ahead and start constructing some roads. And as we gather up resources, people should start building out these little hovels over here, though we will be getting rid of these hovels fairly early on. Perfect. Housing has been resolved. Okay, next thing we want to do is place down a temple once I have a little bit more stone to work with. Why? Because I very badly need to consult the wisdom of the gods, because that is a thing in this game. And let's go ahead and do that now. See, I wasn't kidding. We're going to talk to the Pantheon. Now, every one of these gods can assist you in different ways. We will need to dedicate our temple to one of them in order to get some sort of a benefit in a radius around that temple. So for me, I'm going to go ahead and choose Jupiter because I know he's going to boost up the happiness of all citizens nearby. It's a good thing for an urban center, which is what I'm doing now. There also will be Ceres, which is mostly for farming, Vulcan, who's good for industrial buildings, and of course Neptune for fishing yields. There will be other gods when the game releases. We can see Mars and Venus over here as well, but they're currently locked. Now, by dedicating my temple to Jupiter, he's going to give me 2 favor, which is actually part of your progression system in the game. And he will have more quests for us to complete, and doing so is going to help us progress further. I'm going to spend 1 of my favor to go ahead and permanently get that happiness bonus I was looking for, so we can get a little bit of extra value out of the temple. That's important because his first task for me is to grow my population up to 20 citizens. Do that and we get 3 additional favor. And the way you get citizens in this game is exclusively through immigration. So the higher your happiness value, the more that people will want to join your city as they travel by. Let's make sure we get a well over here as well, by the way. Well as well. Because obviously our people do need something to drink. That's a good way of preserving some happiness. We already have an immigration ship on the way. I can see it right here. So the sooner I get this built up, the more likely I get to keep at least some of these citizens. And that worked. All 5 people on the ship decided to join. All right, cool. We already finished our objective for Jupiter. Let's complete that, and his new objective is to have 2 temples in the city. We'll take care of that in just a bit. Now, what can you do with all of the new points? Well, let's go to our technology tree. This is how we are going to continue to grow. And you can see that it largely follows a few themes. We could build out some small apartments and get some food counters for happiness and distribution of resources, tax offices to get some wealth, fire brigades, theaters, aqueducts, more industrial buildings, clay, pottery, wine. You get the idea. I'll start by unlocking, let's say, the small apartment over here, maybe a small granary for farming, and also a food counter. Speaking of food, let's start thinking about that next. So we can go to our farming areas over here, and if I click on that, you can see that we have a few different tile colors here. Yellow is basically terrible and needs immigration to work. Medium is okay, but along the river we have these nice, rich, dark green tiles. And this is where I want to start placing down most of my farming. It does cost a lot of wood to do this, so you're going to use up a lot. Also keep in mind that each one of these farms will be worked full-time by one of your citizens. So if I place down like 20 farms right now, I'm going to kill my labor force entirely. Don't overdo it. Now, each one of these farms are going to produce some wheat every year. It would be beneficial to place down things like a small granary nearby so that people don't have to travel as far to drop off resources. It would also be helpful to build another small temple close to all of the farms, which I can then consult with the gods and dedicate this one to Ceres to improve all of my agricultural harvests nearby. So that's 2 more favor for me. Thank you. We'll go ahead and spend one of those to just boost up that output right now. And then her task is already completed. She wanted me to have 5 farms. Done deal. This is one of the reasons it's useful dedicating your temples to different gods kind of early on, because each one of them has their own set of quests, which means you can complete your objectives and get favor a lot faster. Let's get myself a tax office next, probably a forester, and then a stone quarry. Even finished our next objective for Ceres. There's a granary. Thank you. See, we're chunking through this nice and quick now. Let's get a fire brigade going. Believe it or not, that is quite helpful. And my next objective was to make an offering of 30 wheat. If I do that, I'm going to have no food, so I'll wait on this for a little bit. And the tax office is now working, which means we are going to start generating some wealth from all nearby homes. That's good, because you're going to need wealth to start building pretty much any of your more advanced structures. If I want that fire brigade, that costs money. If I want to throw, let's say, a small food counter in one of my apartments, that costs me money. You get the idea. Now, one of the big issues we're going to have right now is it's kind of cold outside, and people are going to start dying from exposure because we don't have any charcoal. Let's start planning out a couple of areas where I can start growing trees just for the purpose of having a reliable source of lumber. Probably down over here. This seems fine. And I do need one more favor to get my charcoal maker, so what else can we do? Well, if I had a bit more of that wheat, I'd make the offering. For now, I think we're just going to have to accept this. It's not great, but hey, this is what happens. Let's place one of these food counters inside of one of these apartments, by the way. It has a small radius around it where we can increase the happiness of all nearby residents. And here we're running into an interesting little issue. So now my tax office is not working because no one has decided to work here. They're all working on harvesting jobs. One thing you're going to have to do in this game is prioritize your jobs based on what you think you actually need. So, for example, I'm going to say working in a temple is very important so we don't displease the gods, then bad things would happen. I'm also going to say that granary and stockpile workers are important just to keep our logistics flowing. Wheat farmers can be, let's say, next, then tax collectors, foresters, shopkeepers, and so on. So building and clearing land is currently a low priority. And we're free to move those around as needed, but the more industries we have, the more jobs that exist, the more complicated this priority listing can become. But I definitely don't want people abandoning all their other tasks just because I had a large area cleared out. That wouldn't make any sense. But some jobs I don't mind having as temporary positions. So for example, I'll let my firefighters be here at the bottom, and if there ever is a fire, well, then we'll go ahead and move it up here to the top. But for now, it's not a priority, so why work there? Finish our objectives. Let's go ahead and move on to getting some charcoal. Also, I'll just go ahead and preemptively unlock the clay pit. Let's also build up a stone quarry. Now, this needs to be placed next to one of these very large stone deposits. And you do not want it to be next to all of your housing, so plan on keeping this at least a reasonable distance away. Wouldn't be a bad idea to have a small stockpile nearby as well. Let's make an offering to Jupiter, giving him some of our cash. Thank you. And I guess I'll unlock the stone roads now, just so we can have a bit faster travel time. Costs a bit of money and stuff, but I mean, it's never a bad idea. Give the wheat over to Ceres. And let's unlock, how about the pottery workshop? Now, winter's hitting, so it's time to think about where we're going to be having charcoal and industry. I know I need a clay pit next to the river, and also the iron is all located over here, plus we have our forester. So I'm thinking this down here might make for a halfway decent industrial zone. That's important because I could set down another temple out over here dedicated to Vulcan. So we obviously want to build everything in a radius around that. For now, let's go ahead and place down a charcoal maker, I don't know, down over here perhaps. Might also be wise to place down another stockpile and a warehouse in this area, just so again, we can reduce that travel time. And how are we doing with jobs? Not a lot of people available for building or for clearing land, which is currently slowing me down by a fair bit. We could reprioritize this a little bit more, but this is why having really high happiness is great, because your population goes up, you can keep filling in all of your jobs. Next temple is up. Let's consult the gods and dedicate ourselves to Vulcan over here. A little bit more favor. Make an offering of a lot of wood. Sure, okay. Let's also unlock that extra output to all fire-based industry nearby. That should include a few things. How about a bakery? I think that's fire-based, technically. So from that, we can now start expanding our food operations a bit. This would increase happiness, though, so it's usually worth keeping close to the housing. So as much as I might want to have it down over here, I think we'll just place it by the homes. Let's also get that clay pit up and running now. And then once I have a bit more lumber, we'll get ourselves a pottery workshop. That's kind of the most important thing I can do to make my citizens happy right now and start boosting up that population. There we go. All right, pottery is being delivered. Happiness should start to go up, but we have a new problem. An enemy army is approaching. Jupiter, guide me. Recruit a militia at the outpost to fight off the invaders. Very good. Takes 48 of my people, at least temporarily, but that's fine. All right, there we go. They have now been trained. So where are these invaders? There they are. It's the Romans. Just one little battalion here, though. Shouldn't be too hard. Question is, where are they going to attack me? I'm going to let them come to me, not to go the other way around. Looks like they want to attack my farms over here on this side of the river. Very well. Havachi! No, like, literally, they're setting my farms on fire. How very dare you. That's exceptionally rude. It's fine. They're running away for some reason, so we'll just go ahead and poke them in the back with our sharp sticks. I think for whatever reason, that's all they wanted to do. They wanted to burn one thing, and now they're hightailing it out of here. They might even manage to get away. I don't know. Oh, never mind. We killed them. There we go. Haha. So I should be able to disband my armies now and say, hey, everyone, go back home. Hooray! Get out of here, Romans. You suck. We've managed to get ourselves up to over 100 population. Jupiter is quite pleased. So let's take a look at how many points I've got to work with now. So I got fire engines so we can move a lot faster. Happiness continues to be an issue, though. Let's get a small theater unlocked so we can get some additional happiness, even though it does cost me a wage. Masons are good if your buildings get damaged from fires. You can repair them. We don't really need any walls or anything at the moment. We haven't placed out any grapes. Don't see a point until we have wine. A dock is good for trade. Let's go for an aqueduct. This does take a fair bit of investment to make work. And also a lot of stone. Like a lot of stone. Where would I like to place my theater? Well, it's got to be close to my residential area, so maybe right over here makes sense. There we go. That should start boosting up happiness a fair bit. And let's at least start thinking about how we want to do aqueducts. So we can go to our water area here, and what we want to do is place down a water tower, ideally somewhat close to all of our housing. What I could do is actually get rid of one of these wells, but that might be a little inconvenient. Maybe right over here, though. That could kind of work. Or I could move the fire brigade elsewhere, and I think I will. Now I can place it right here. That should hit about everything. Perfect. And with this water tower built, it's not providing any value to me yet, but it's going to. We just need to hook up that aqueduct. Now this takes a little bit of finagling and practice. So the way that aqueducts work, obviously, is they can pick up water and then use gravity to move it over long distances. So what you want to do is you want to place down your aqueduct somewhere on a water source, but not down low. If you do that, then how is gravity going to work for you? That's why you want to have your city largely downstream of some water, because if you start at a higher location, like up over here, you can actually make it set up so that the water flows down. But if it's up too high, then the water's going to travel too fast, and that can become a problem. So it takes some practice. So what we can do is choose our starting location around here at this water tower, and just try to get a sense, like, how far can I travel up the river for this to work? Somewhere around, like, 6 to 7 is kind of the maximum you could expect. If I set up, like, way up over here, this would be 10 degrees. That's too fast. So I know that I'm going to have to do some sort of a zigzag pattern for my aqueduct to work, which is unfortunate, because that's very expensive, but what can you do? So let's just try placing it something kind of like this, and we'll just work our way down the waterfall, trying not to exceed about 8 degrees where I can. And already it is too expensive for me to afford, so I need a frick ton more stone. So now that I've got about 200, let's try that again. This would work, but I need 258 stone to do it. Ouch. There we go. All right, that's going to be a very large construction project, but that's fine. And while they work on that, what else can I do with my technology points? Now, for this demo, obviously things are a little bit limited, but we can see that there's going to be a lot more options when the game releases. Much larger housing, larger theaters, bigger temples, ways of building out some baths and fountains, bridges, bakeries, and so on. For now, let's take a look at a couple other options over here. Since we have an aqueduct building, I'll get myself a fountain for extra happiness. And we can also get ourselves a bath reservoir, a cold pool, and if I had a few more points, dams. Dams are a good way of dealing with the fact that you can't easily control the water flow, so if you find yourself in a position where you just can't make it work, go ahead and stopper the sucker up. Okay, here we go. So water should be flowing. A lot of this is currently covered up because, well, we have a lot of issues, but there's the water. I can see it flowing down here. Okay, so the way this is going to work is a certain amount of water is going to flow into the water tower. You can almost think of this as like a water pressure. If you built the aqueduct in a really bad spot, then it won't pick up a lot of water. If your angle is bad, the water won't flow in very efficiently either. So that's something to keep in mind. Now this is going to be supplying water to all the nearby homes, so wells become a lot less useful. And also, we could have this water flow out into other towers, or get distributed to other buildings like, let's say, a bath. Or we could also place down things like fountains. Now over here, I built out an entertainment district here called the Forum. And in the Forum, if I want to place down a fountain, once I have a little bit more money, we can do that, like so, but it will only work if it is supplied by water from a nearby water tower. Now that I have one, that's feasible. Case in point. So we have a bit of extra happiness going to all nearby housing. Perfect. And let's suppose I want to be building out that bath. Well, first thing you have to do is build out a bath reservoir so you can start storing up all of the water you'll need, which we can then hook up to an aqueduct like we had before. Let's make sure we do that at a slight angle. I'm also going to need some marble, so now's time to get myself that marble quarry. And the water has now diverted like so. We are building up that reservoir, but you can see we have indeed split the flow from 250 to 125 at both locations. Even so, let's start working on that bath complex. We can place down a pool and make it kind of big like this. There we go. Now we have the makings of a very small public bath. That should boost up happiness as well as some health value, I believe. Obviously, it's better to put this straight in the center of your urban area, but that's not what I planned for, so we'll make this work. And what else is there really to work on here? We're just about done. Let's go ahead and pick up the winery next so I can do something with grapes. There we go. So that's going to take up some pottery and some grapes, start making wine throughout the year. We've got apples for some more food diversity and so on. Only thing I could do to make that better is actually to go get some fish, but that's far enough away, I'm not too worried about it. Neptune couldn't wait. He's not that important. Although, if you do find yourself in a position where you're getting stymied and can't figure out how to do any more quests, making sure that all of the gods are unlocked is not a bad way to go. But for now, I think I'll just skip things like the towers, I don't need the fishing hut, and no one's dying, so I don't think I need the Undertaker either. Which means we've just about exhausted what this demo has to offer, but we've gotten ourselves in a position where I have lots of resources coming in, my population is now very happy, very healthy, and they are feeling very fulfilled religiously. Oh, actually, I guess one more thing I could show you is kind of how a dam would work. Not that we're going to make use of one right now, but it's kind of fun. So what you do is you start building out like little pieces of your dam, like let's say something here, and then we just kind of stack a little bit higher on top of it, like so. And then drag this out to be like, I don't know, let's say like this, and then drag this out like over here, and so on. And it's going to show you a preview of the water physics of how this water is going to be getting stored up if we were to do something like this. So kind of like this here. Stores up all the water up this direction until it starts to spill out, at which point we place down a deliberate spillage like so, which would be enough to kind of boost up some of the water flow so our aqueduct still works, but also control exactly where it's going to continue flowing to keep the land fertile. Kind of cool. We don't have to commit to this right now, we can't even afford it, but that's how the water physics would work. And then yeah, from there, if we could continue past this demo, we'd have a whole lot of new technology to investigate. I can imagine building out a giant coliseum would be a really fun end game goal. Not to mention that there is trade via the docks if you have some resources you have in excess or you can't find certain ones you want to buy. Plus, Rome will get more aggressive outside of the demo and send larger and larger armies to try and conquer you, which is where having defensive towers or professional armies will eventually be useful. But for now, that's all that I can show you. So yeah, guys, that's a quick look at Nova Roma and what they are showcasing in the latest demo, which again, I'll have a link in the description down below if you'd like to give it a go for yourself. I think there's some serious promise here. It's certainly playing like a proper survival city builder, and if the military threats can become really dangerous, I can imagine it becomes quite challenging as well. Thank you all for watching. I hope you found this video informative and helpful in some way. If so, I would ask you to hit that like button, leave a comment, subscribe, hit that notify bell, and I will see you guys next time.